How's it going, everybody? ScottSpreitzer here with Doug Upstone. We are DocSports.com, and we're talking college football wins totals. A couple more for you this week, and check us out just about each week up until the start of the regular season. We're talking college and pro football wins totals. Before we jump into it, you see that banner at the top of your screen. It says get a free $60 account. It means just that. Click on the link below the video if you're not yet a member at DocSports.com, and you'll get a free $60 account, which means you can use those free $60 on any of Doug Upstone's daily picks, any of mine, anybody else on the roster at DocSports.com, where we've got, I think 51 years of experience talking about point spreads. That's about 47, 48 years more than the TV networks since they started, other than a sneak here by Al Michaels once in a while. Anyway, let's get to it, Doug. We're going to talk a couple of college football wins totals, one from the Pac-12, one from the Big Ten, and I'm going to kick things off with UCLA. That over-under wins total sitting at 8.5. Fourth shortest odds UCLA has to win the Pac-12 this season behind Utah. Everybody's on Utah, it seems like. But Utah, USC, and Oregon. Then it's UCLA and a pretty decent gap for the next best according to the odds. I like the offense a lot. They hung, 60 or whatever on USC last year. DTR is back at quarterback. Seems like he's been there forever. I remember as a kid, it seemed like Major Ogilvy played about 15 years for the Alabama Crimson Tide. I get that feeling with DTR. But check out the first 5 games on the schedule. They're home against Bowling Green. They're home against Alabama State. They're home against South Alabama. And then on the road, they're at Colorado. Colorado might not win a conference game this season. And then they're home against Washington, who should do better than last year, but not quite at levels that I've grown used to over the years with the Washington Huskies. So I'm looking at 5-0, and then they host in Pasadena the Utah Utes. So again, start off 5-0, even if they lose that game to Utah, and I'm not so sure they will if they're healthy. Then they have home games remaining throughout the course of the season against Stanford, Arizona, and USC. They're all winnable games. Maybe one loss in that mix, which would be USC. The road games over the second half of the season include Oregon, Arizona State, and Cal. And again, if UCLA plays up to the standard they should this year, up to their potential, at the very most, they lose one of those road games, which would likely be, of course, at Oregon. So when you add everything up, you're talking 9-3 at least, 10-2 in all likelihood, as far as I'm concerned with the Bruins. You got DTR at quarterback. You got a 1,000-yard running back in Zach Charbonnet coming back. Wide receiver core is talented. They're young, but they're skillful. I saw this on a report the other day that the Bruins, who did, by the way, average over 38 points per game last year and led the Pac-12 in scoring, that they've got 21 players now who've graduated who are coming back to play this season. And as I said on a radio show, about a week ago when I was talking about UCLA, that's serious commitment to what you think Chip Kelly, your coach, is building. And if this team had 4-8 potential, I don't think you see 21 graduates coming back to play football. They know this team has a chance to win a few games. I think 9 at least, 10 in all likelihood. I'm backing UCLA to go over that wins total of 8.5, Doug. And if you have thoughts on it, fire away.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. This is a good-looking team. There's a lot to like about it. The defense still has to continue to improve. But as we have seen during the Chip Kelly era, maybe we're looking for some, let's just say, larger increases or larger steps forward. These have been primarily smaller, but they've always been in the positive direction. So I think that's the key. Something is being built here. It's not like Oregon where we just flipped the switch and everything got better. Obviously, the talent level was pretty low. It's been increased. I don't think he's necessarily still getting all the recruits he probably would like to get, but he's building towards it. And hey, if we were doing this, in 2 years, we'd be talking about 2 Big Ten teams from that standpoint.
There you go.
So things are changing. Things are on the move, but UCLA is a definite threat. And I'm with you. I really like Utah, and there's nothing not to like about them, but it just doesn't seem like it's a closed deal. I think there's some definitely. I actually, last week when we did the videos, I talked about USC, who I'm not as high on. I actually like UCLA over USC just in general.
Sounds good to me. And, we just talked about it. Oh, by the way, Utah plays in Gainesville to kick off the season. So I don't think Florida's anything special this year, but it's still Gainesville. It's still the swamp. And we'll see how Utah fares there. But we won't judge them too much. If they come out with a 31-20, 31-17 type of win, it doesn't mean that they're ready to enter the playoffs at the end of the season. So let's go from UCLA's current conference to UCLA's future conference. You got to play in the Big Ten. Let's hear it, buddy.
I certainly do, and it's about concerning the Wisconsin Badgers. Now, I'm on record, okay, and lived in Wisconsin a long time, but I'm not drinking the Kool-Aid. Never have, never will, from that standpoint. But that doesn't mean, from a handicap perspective, I'm not going to do my job one way or the other. And so, even if I like them, so be it. But I think this Wisconsin team can go over the 8.5. The total that's set out there. Now, there's two ways this can go. This could be a 10-win team, or it could be an 8-win team. And the key components to me are the quarterback, Graham Mertz, and the offensive line. Now, Mertz was the highest rated quarterback they had ever signed in Madison to play the position, and he got off to a great start. I mean, he just was lights out when he first got there as a freshman. But since, it's been, a little bit, here and there. Some of it was his fault. Some of it wasn't. The wide receivers don't get much separation. That doesn't help you when you're throwing the ball. They had a lot of injuries a couple of years ago. I think it was the COVID year, and they lost a ton of tight ends at the same time. So that made matters tough. But, he still throws, or has thrown, a lot of bad passes. I mean, stuff down the middle where the safeties, it's like the safeties who's open, not the receiver. So from that standpoint. So the other thing is the offensive line. I mean, we're so used to Wisconsin just sending, the conveyor belt of NFL players onto the NFL, and that's just not the case anymore. So the talent level has dropped off in the offensive line. Will it come back this year just automatically? Well, probably not, but it certainly can play better. And it's, as we've talked about, it's one thing to get 300 yards rushing against Rutgers or Illinois. It's quite another to do it against Ohio State and Michigan and some of those boys from that standpoint. So I'm looking at this. Their defense still is going to be great. They got 8 starters back. They're always in the top 10, or seemingly in the top 10 in the country defensively. I don't think that's going to be an issue there. I look at their schedule. There's 3 stumbling blocks to me. They're all on the road: at Columbus, at East Lansing, and at Iowa City. Even if they lose all 3 of those, that's 9-3. That's an over. I like Wisconsin to go over the 8.5 this upcoming season. Scott?
I think they can beat East Lansing, Michigan State on the road. I'm not as high on the big money that was paid out to Tucker at Michigan State. I do think it's a perennial 8-4 team. Once in a while, they'll be hunting for a 10-2 finish. Once in a while, they'll barely be making a bowl game. I really do believe that. And as far as Iowa, if Wisconsin goes into Iowa City, just put 16, 17 points on the board, and you ought to walk away a winner there. I'm not into that Iowa Hawkeye offense at all. Boy, their wins. So last year when they had all those wins, and it was like, the offense did nothing. Turnovers. What they do is Ferentz has them focused at not making their own dumb mistakes usually. But when they go up against a better team like a team like Wisconsin, I think they're going to be in trouble. I like your play is what I'm trying to say in a long-term way, is that Wisconsin goes over the total. I agree with you. So a couple of overs here. Doug Upstone says take Wisconsin over the wins total. I'm on UCLA over the wins total also. And again, we will be back here throughout the course of August until we get to the regular season of both pro and college football with some wins totals, some futures and thoughts like that. Don't forget about that free $60 account with that link located right below the video. For Doug Upstone, I'm Scott Spreitzer. Let's put him in the win column, everybody. We are DocSports.com.